It was supposed to be a normal morning. I had woken up with the usual sense of urgency, 1,000 things to get done, a full day of meetings ahead of me. The office was buzzing as always, and I was used to it. I had been doing this for years, pushing, working harder than anyone around me. After all, I had a reputation to uphold, a career to protect. But today, something was different. I had been feeling off for a few days, a tightness in my chest that wouldn't go away, but I chalked it up to stress. It wasn't anything new, right? I had been working around the clock, taking on extra tasks, dealing with the pressure of deadlines that never seemed to end. I was just tired. I told myself I'd be fine. But as the morning wore on, the pain in my chest only grew worse. It was a dull, persistent ache, but it was enough to make me pause. I remember sitting at my desk, staring at the stack of paperwork in front of me, when everything went fuzzy. My heart raced. My vision blurred. I felt dizzy, like I was on the verge of passing out. I tried to shake it off, tried to keep working. But the pressure in my chest became unbearable. I stood up, but my legs felt weak. I couldn't move. The room spun around me. The next thing I knew, I was on the floor, barely able to breathe. I tried to scream, but my throat wouldn't cooperate. It felt like everything inside me was shutting down. I don't know how long I was there. All I could hear was the sound of my own pulse, thumping in my ears, growing louder as everything around me went dark. When I woke up, I was in a hospital bed. I could feel the weight of the blankets on my chest, and the cold sting of the four in my arm. The nurse was standing over me, checking my vitals. She looked at me with concern in her eyes. "You had a heart attack," she said, her voice gentle. It was mild, "but you're lucky to be alive." Lucky to be alive. Those words echoed in my mind as I stared at the ceiling. I couldn't believe it. I had always been in control, always been the one who worked hard, who pushed through, who never showed weakness. And now, here I was, lying in a hospital bed, unable to do anything but think about how fragile everything was. But it wasn't just the heart attack that haunted MIT, was what came next. When I finally got out of the hospital and returned to work, I was met with silence. It was like I had never been gone. Like I didn't matter anymore. I walked into the office, trying to find my footing, but I could feel the eyes on me. Colleagues who once greeted me with smiles and small talk now avoided me. It was subtle, but it was there. The whispers, the uncomfortable silences when I entered a room. I knew something wasn't right. I tried to push through, to get back to work, but it felt like the company wasn't interested in welcoming me back. My emails went unanswered. My requests for meetings were ignored. I was invisible. A week after my return, I was called into HR. I knew something was off when they asked me to sit down. But nothing could have prepared me for what came next. They handed me a letter. My termination letter. "We regret to inform you," they said, "that due to your extended medical leave, we are no longer able to continue your employment with the company, effective immediately." I stared at them, my heart sinking in my chest. This couldn't be happening. I had worked for this company for 15 years. I had given everything to it. I had sacrificed time with my family, missed out on vacations, stayed late when others left early, all for the sake of the company. And now, just like that, I was disposable. The words echoed in my head as I walked out of HR. I felt numb, like I was walking through a fog. I didn't even know how to react. I had no plan. I had never expected this. I thought that after everything I had done, I would at least be given the chance to recover, to come back and prove myself. But they didn't care. I was a liability, and liabilities were to be discarded. The next few days were a blur. I tried to reach out to my manager, but she was never available. I tried emailing HR again, but they wouldn't respond. It was like I had never existed. I sat in my apartment, staring at my phone, waiting for anything to change. But nothing did, and that's when it hit me. They were trying to erase me. They were trying to pretend like I had never been there, like the 15 years of my life that I had given to this company meant nothing. I couldn't let it go. I couldn't just walk away. I had been treated unfairly, and I wasn't going to let them get away with it. So, I called a lawyer. At first, I wasn't sure what to expect. I didn't even know if I had a case. But when I explained everything to him, he looked at me with a knowing expression. "You've been discriminated against," he said. "What they did to you is illegal. You have grounds for a lawsuit." Those words, simple as they were, gave me the strength I needed. I wasn't just fighting for myself. I was fighting for everyone who had been mistreated by this company. I was fighting for every employee who had been discarded without a second thought. I wasn't going to let them get away with this. Over the next few weeks, I worked with my lawyer to gather evidence. We dug through emails, internal memos, and performance reviews. The more we uncovered, the clearer it became. This wasn't just about me. This was a pattern of behavior. The company had been systematically pushing out employees who were deemed too expensive, too old, or too sick. They were replacing people like me with cheaper alternatives, with no regard for the years of service or the human beings behind the numbers. And so, I filed the lawsuit. A $90 million lawsuit that would not only seek damages for me but exposed the dark underbelly of a company that had built its success on the backs of people like me, only to throw them away when they became too costly. The lawsuit was a turning point. It wasn't just about the money, it was about justice. It was about making sure that this kind of treatment would never happen again. It was about standing up for the people who had been erased. The case went public, and the company's reputation began to crumble. The media picked up the story, and soon, other employees began to come forward. Whistleblowers, former workers, people who had been too afraid to speak out, all of them started to share their experiences. And the more they shared, the more I realized how deep the rot went. This wasn't an isolated incident. This was a culture of abuse, a corporate machine that valued profits over people. I wasn't the only one who had been discarded. There were dozens of others, people who had been pushed out, erased, forgotten. And now, we had the evidence to prove it. We had the power to bring down the company's house of cards. The more we exposed, the more the company tried to cover up. They tried to bury the truth, to spin the narrative, but it was too late. The truth had already been told, and nothing they did could change that. They couldn't erase me anymore. When the case finally went to court, the tension was palpable. The company's legal team was confident they had the money, the power, the resources. But they didn't have the truth. And that was something they couldn't fight. In the end, the jury found in my favor. The company was ordered to pay $90 million in damages. But it wasn't the money that mattered. What mattered was that I had stood up for myself. I had fought back against a system that tried to destroy me, and I had won.